Today we are going to attack a very tricky animation problem and solve it with some advanced use of the plastic tool. You're going to like this. But first, I want to recommend this YouTube video. This right here. It's called Holy Post Race in America. It's being posted by Phil Vischer. Who is Phil Vischer? Phil Vischer is the guy. He's actually the most successful guy in the history of faith and family cartoons. He's the creator of VeggieTales. And this post is the most crisp, concise, complete explanation of how we got to where we are in America today and why the race problem is a big problem and racism is institutionalized and you can't explain it away. It's a big problem. And this video was just superb. Just he nailed it. So check it out. Okay. All right, so here's the problem. I do have the proclivity when I'm creating the storyboard for the cartoon to sort of plan action that's on the ambitious side. In other words, what I see in my head is kind of something out of maybe a 90s Disney movie in a lot of cases. And so, and I'll kind of jot down the concept that I'm after, and in all reality, in many cases, it's economically going to be challenging to implement the idea. Okay? The idea in question in this case is that our hero is carrying a really large stack of bowls. And he's kind of, going back and forth and almost dropping them and that sort of thing. So I'm sure you guys get it. Okay, so the idea is if you were to draw a stack of, say, a dozen bowls, let's make it a little more manageable. Let's say half a dozen, so 6 bowls. Okay, if you had this stack of bowls, to do hand-drawn animation where you do frame by frame, just draw all the physics of how things move around, you could do it, but it would be very time-consuming and very challenging to get right, or get to a point that's satisfactory. So I just was kind of taking a walk around the neighborhood and thinking about the solution to that problem, and I think what I've come up with is actually quite a good solution. The first thing I'm going to do is say that when we have this shot in the show, we are slightly looking up. Okay, that immediately solves a major problem for this reason. Now we can draw a bowl. All right, just draw a bowl. And because we're looking up, each bowl will overlap the ones behind it. So as we go up, they're going to be behind each other. So that just keeps things a little simpler. I'm not going to knock myself out trying to draw the world's most perfect bowl. I don't think that's necessary because, in this case, these bowls would have been handmade anyway. So they're going to be they're going to have a little bit of variability, you might say, in their construction, blah, blah, blah. Control C. Let's just do this, and whoops, kind of missed. Okay, so there's my bowl. And I'm going to try to make that sort of, the color sort of sit in the mix a little bit more nicely. And now that I'm thinking about it, just because I'm thinking about it, I'm also going to take the paintbrush tool and kind of put a little bit of a shadow underneath. And why don't we just go ahead and do the same thing down here as well. Okay, so we don't need to belabor it. It's a bowl. Okay, so now how are we going to do this? Well, as I mentioned in the title, what we're going to do is we're going to use the plastic tool in sort of an advanced way. Now, in all reality, I don't know that the bowls ever get that close on the screen, so I'm going to go ahead and shrink it down a little bit. But here's the basic gist. I'm going to go Control C, Control V, and add another bowl. Okay. Control C. Okay, and by the way, I'm seeing a little bit of a disparity in my scene setup that's causing a bit of a problem, so we'll just kind of work around it. Okay, CV, CV, well, I only hit Control C the first time. Okay, 6 bowls. Now what we're going to do is we're going to save this scene as save all, and now we're going to hit the plastic tool, and we're going to create a mesh. Okay, so now we've got a mesh that has the way OpenToonz works is it creates the mesh around only areas that are filled. I mean, it actually will put the mesh around areas that are not filled, but you wind up with this really thin mesh. It's a little less manageable, but this will work fine. So let's go apply. And now what we're going to do is we're going to build a skeleton. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to create a base, and then for each bowl, I'm going to put 2 bones. The reason I'm not using 1 bone is I want to be able to rotate the bowls. Okay? So now that's basically it as far as the skeleton setup goes. Now what we want to do is we want to take this bone or node right here, and let's do this. Let's turn keep distance off, because that allows us to move the bones around like this. And now you can see here what the problem's going to be. Okay, so this is the problem I want to address right now. I think the solution would be to take this bone right here, and let's make this, let's go 6. Okay. Alright, let's take this bone, and we'll make this 5. So this is SO, which actually stands, I believe, for stacking order. Okay, so this is going to be 6. This is 5. This is 5. So we're just going to... Sorry. Hello. Stacking order of 5, stacking order of 5. So this would be, as you can guess, 4, 4. So admittedly, we do have a little bit of time that we have to invest in the setup. No doubt about it. However, we're talking about a minute or so. Okay, that's interesting. Keep hitting, it's like I hit the numpad 2, which is also the down arrow button. That's kind of strange. Well, I'm not going to worry too much about that. This should also be 1. Boom. Okay, so let's save our work. Now what should happen is we can go ahead and by the way, as I'm doing this, I'm certainly seeing that, you know, maybe I didn't pick the best way to do this. Maybe what I should have done is had a single branch, and each of the bowls are handled separately, so you don't have this interdependence between them, because you can see how it is a little bit clunky. I need to get the base of the bowl here and then deal with the rotation, and of course by dealing with the rotation it's actually deforming it a little bit. So actually this isn't the best architecture, but that's okay, because I'll show you how we can maybe address that here in just a minute. Okay, so I'm going to put this here, and again we're just going to rotate. I think I want this one to be actually over like this a little bit, and this one, okay, now that we have these positioned, by the way, I think if we turn keep distance back on, that's going to really help us, because now we can actually just animate the interaction of the bowls over time. And because the bones can't stretch, we're not going to deform the bowls. And actually the little bit of deformation that did occur is kind of a win, because it makes the bowls look like they're handmade and they're all a little bit individually different from one another. So I'm going to actually turn keep distance off again for just a minute, in order to come over here, let's see how we want to do this. In practice, I'm going to say, okay, there we go. Let's turn keep distance back on now. File, save. Okay, so if we were to go ahead and give this a little bit more context, I'm going to go ahead and just add a brush here. Oops, my pencil brush. So I can actually just pencil test in Mel, just a sketch of him at this point with dot eye. So I'm going to draw him in this most overly simplified way, and he's going to have his arms around the bowls and something like that. Okay, so he's going to be walking. Okay, so now what I will be hand animating is Mel. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just tighten this up a little bit just so it doesn't look totally stupid. And we'll give him a little bit of a, almost like a tank top situation, but with a collar. And okay, I don't like that. I don't like the size of the pupils. So get this. He's got his headband. He's got, of course, some hair. Now, one question one might ask oneself is, why is the guy smiling? Because actually, the whole idea is that he's kind of struggling with keeping these bowls under control. So let's go with something a little more like this. Okay? That works. Alright. So now this is really just for demonstration purposes. I'm not going to draw the drawings of the character because it's going to just basically take too long, and I don't really want to do it right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to extend this down, you know, a couple seconds, and hit the X key, and here we see our bowl. So now what might happen over time? Let's say over the course of half a second, he kind of goes like this, right? So now this really provides the model for what we're going to see. I'm just curious actually what happens if we put Mel in there. Okay, yeah, so let's just say, let's use the animate tool. So we'll keep this as simple as possible. All right, so we'll put Mel here, and then here, just so it doesn't look totally goofy, we'll go over here. Now what would happen here is that as he's making this progress, you would see, just, you could almost be random about it actually, just put some variation in here with the bowls. Okay, and then I'm basically thinking we'll just kind of, let's see, animate tool here, we want to be more like that. Okay, so what I'm thinking is about halfway, we want to almost have like a squash and stretch effect where it looks like he's almost going to lose them. All right, so therefore, what would happen, whoops, is they would kind of tip this away. And, whoa. Okay. And we can make this even more exaggerated, just so it really looks like there's some crazy stuff going on. Wow, holy smokes. Alright, and we'll do one more piece of it just to see what we can get away with, because remember, we're basically working against a walk cycle here. So I'm going to put this here, and in this case, actually I think what I'll do, let's go back up here, and let's put Mel's center point So he's kind of anchored on his hips. And that way, here, we could, in fact, do a rotation like that. Here, we'll put it back. So, just gives it a little bit more life. And the pacing here is not correct. I'm not claiming that it is. Okay. Boom. Boom. And now again, what we're doing is we're just looking for that nice variation that makes it kind of fun. So that means halfway through here, since he's got a fairly quick move here, this is going to be about as far this way as you can get without actually spilling the bowls. Okay, and that's fine. So as an example, let's just kind of see how Mel's doing. So let's save this. We'll turn off the plastic tool so we can't see it, and boom. Okay, so not saying it's the greatest animation ever, but I will say that for a one-man production, trying to crank out a half-hour show, you got a really tricky animation problem. This is a great way to solve it. And how long did that take? I've been recording for 16 minutes. In truth, this is probably suitable finished quality as far as the bowl motion goes. You know, you could obviously go in and fix up the rendering of the bowls a little bit, give them a little more detail. There's all kinds of things you could do. And if you want to do that, you can just go here to the drawing. Well, okay, sorry, that's the plastic tool. Go here to the drawing, and you could go in and actually individualize the bowls. So if I go Control C, Control V, get a little red here going. Can put some dots on this one, some little other marks on this one. Alright, and then this one we'll just go ahead and use the blue, and everything updates accordingly. So there you go. An economical solution to a tricky problem. The other tricky aspect here, first of all, I will say this. This is one of those rare cases where I might actually consider breaking Mel into a two-dimensional puppet. And clearly his hands are going to have to be on a different layer or level than the rest of his body, because his hands need to be in front of the bowls and the rest of him needs to be behind. So there's definitely still some problems to solve, but they're all really sort of different permutations of the same problem. So there you go. That's a cool solution to a tricky problem. And with that, I will tell you, as I always do, there will be more later. Oh, and by the way, I'm telling you, I actually got rid of it. Don't forget to look up this YouTube video. YouTube, actually what I did, I believe when I wanted to find it again, I said Vischer Race. It's actually Vischer Race. And there it is. Race in America. So go watch that video and then practice with the plastic tool and have fun. And like I said, there will definitely be more later.